It's hard to get any more irrational than the religious because they aren't interested in rationality in the first place. They just really want to believe. Well, how do they know that their beliefs are actually true? They don't, and they don't care. They just want it to be true. So let's see just how bad that can actually get. I've kind of talked about this in passing a couple of times, but watching the religious scream at each other, sometimes literally, that can be pretty entertaining. We're going to see that in action. I mean, not the screaming bit. That's sad, I guess. But today, when For the New Christian Intellectual proves just how non-intellectual they actually are, I hope this is going to be fun to watch. Supposedly, they're going to prove that Cornelius Van Til's presuppositionalism is just wrong. How do they do that? Well, by just assuming that they're right instead. I don't think that's going to go as well as they hope, but let's see.
Anyway, Jacob, could you share your thoughts about that, about the anti-apologetic of Cornelius Van Til?
Now, we've done some Van Til around here before, and I think we found him pretty ridiculously laughable, so I figure they're just going to agree with that up to a certain point. Yet, this is one of those things that I think, at least, is funny to watch, which is what brings us here today. Well, your preconceptions are wrong, but my preconceptions are right. Yeah, it probably doesn't work that way. Sorry, you're probably all wrong. But let's see where this winds up.
When you understand that Reformed theology and Reformed people want to emphasize total depravity, and when you understand that they mistakenly think that total depravity means an inability to reason rightly, then you can kind of understand why this sort of rationalization about apologetics would be necessary.
I'm willing to bet that you're doing the exact same thing, though. I'm sure you're just rationalizing to get where you want to go, too. This is why it's funny to watch the religious argue with each other, because both sides are effectively saying, I'm right, no, I'm right, no, I am. Yet neither side can actually demonstrate that they are, in fact, right. And that's kind of a problem, wouldn't you say? Yet this is basically what religion does. It starts off with an emotionally comforting conclusion that it really wants to reach, and then, since their conclusion can't possibly be wrong because, they say so, anybody who isn't trying to come to the same conclusion in the exact same way, well, they've got to be mistaken, so there. So you get two sides just screaming incoherently at each other, or, as it seems to be the case here, one side screaming at another who isn't even there to defend themselves. Sometimes it's just entertaining to watch the fur fly. So let's see.
Because if it's impossible to reason rightly, well, then what's the point of trying to reason rightly with the unbeliever, right? If being unregenerate makes it impossible for you to reason rightly, well, then it's pointless to try to reason with an unbeliever. You just have to command them to obey the scriptures and believe.
See? Exactly what I was talking about. Because I, who don't take either side seriously, I'm probably one of the few who can actually be objective about this whole thing. I do not believe any of your preconceptions, so I'm going to insist that you both go back to square one and prove that any of this stuff is reasonable, rational, or most importantly, true. All of this is just based on, well, it just sounds good to me. But that doesn't mean anything, does it? What you want to be true is not the same as what is true. So stop projecting your feelings and come back when you actually have some facts. This is where they very quickly lose interest and would rather go talk to some other lunatics over there. At least they're doing the same irrational stuff that you are, so you don't have to defend yourself. They can understand the same kind of jargon, even if they disagree. It's one more reason that they have absolutely no interest in talking to us. Because we win the rationality battle every single time.
And then after they believe, they're able to reason rightly. So the idea is that regeneration grants the ability to reason rightly that wasn't there before.
Because you're just assuming that you're right and everybody who disagrees with you is automatically wrong. I can't imagine where I might have heard that before. It's why this is such a complete waste of everyone's time. You can't debate a fanatic because debating requires that you be able to reconsider your own positions and actually care if what you're saying is true, and these people simply can't. But I really want to believe aside, you're all just embarrassing yourselves.
But this is a mistake in soteriology, and it's a mistake about the doctrine of total depravity.
None of which has ever been demonstrated to be true. Your faith doesn't mean anything. The whole idea of studying salvation hinges on the concept of being coherent in the first place, and you notice who isn't willing to discuss that intelligently, right? Yeah, the people who just believe it on blind faith. They just assume that it's true because they really want it to be true. But that doesn't make it true. All that is really going on here is them saying, well, Van Til can't be right because we are. But I don't think either one of you is right. I think you're all out of your minds. They don't want to talk about that, though, do they? Because all of these conversations start halfway through. They've already got through all of the, well, God is real nonsense before they start with anything else. And the second that you try to reverse course back to their foundational beliefs, well, they're putting their foot down because they want absolutely nothing to do with that. You people are nuts. Knock it off.
Yes, it's true that total depravity does mean that sin touches every aspect of our being, including our minds. But that doesn't mean that we are therefore incapable of reasoning rightly.
All of that, every single last bit of it, was just a load of nonsense. It was all just, well, all the things that we already believe are automatically true, right? Nope, sorry, not right. You have to be able to back it up with something other than your blind faith. And that's why they spend all of their time in their own ridiculous religious echo chambers, so they don't have to justify any of this. If these guys showed up at my door and started spouting all this crap, I just laugh in their faces. Every last bit of it requires that you already believe because you can't back any of it up. They just really, really, really want it to be true. Well, so the hell what?
It means that we're incapable of not sinning in our reasoning, but there are other ways to sin in your reasoning other than just spewing nothing but fallacies, right?
Just like you're doing. Because you haven't demonstrated that sin is even a thing. You can't sin without something demonstrable to sin against, and you sure the hell haven't proven your God is real, have you? This is the problem that they always have. They really like these ideas for entirely emotional reasons. But when it comes to convincing others that aren't part of their own cult of stupidity, they tend to run into a lot of trouble. Why? Because none of this makes any sense. None of this is independently verifiable. It's all just wishful thinking. It's, wow, I really like that idea, don't you? Well, who cares? I find it hysterical that this channel is called For the New Christian Intellectual when they are engaging in nothing but faith. There's nothing intellectual going on here at all. They are all just noodling their navels from a position of prior faith. That's not intellectual. That's downright stupid.
And so it's this very simplistic and an arbitrary view of total depravity that grounds presuppositionalism for the most part.
Except you are doing the exact same thing. You have this theological idea that you happen to like that isn't remotely defensible beyond your own blind faith, and anybody who disagrees, well, they're wrong. except they can say the exact same thing about you and bring to the table exactly as much evidence as you can. You're wrong because you disagree with them. They're wrong because they disagree with you. How do you get to anything remotely resembling testable claims here? How do we determine who, if any of you, is actually correct, entirely absent your faith? That's the important question, and it's one that they do not want to bring up because they know that they've got absolutely nothing intelligent to say. Because, of course, they don't care. They just really want to believe.
And it's just wrong. It's true that we are totally depraved. It's true that sin does touch and affect every part of our natures, including our minds. But that doesn't mean that we are incapable of reasoning rightly.
It is true that under your beliefs, you think that those things are right, but that doesn't make them right. It doesn't mean your beliefs are true, and that's kind of the question at hand. It's why most discussions with the religious get completely derailed because they can't imagine that their beliefs aren't true, and whenever someone questions their core beliefs, they have no clue what else they can say because they just have to be right. This is why it's so funny to watch discussions like this from an outsider perspective, because these people can't objectively consider their own positions without blind faith making them go, well, of course we're right. This is where, how the hell do you know that, comes in really, really handy. And they have absolutely no answer for that at all.
The Bible affirms that unregenerate men are capable of reasoning rightly, and that's why they stand condemned.
Who the hell cares what the Bible says? I mean, you do, but I don't. This is why having a lot of questions tends to piss these people off. They don't want questions. They want blind adherence. It's true because they want it to be true, because their particular reading of their particular book says so, so there. This is why it's funny to watch Christians and Muslims, or Christians and Hindus, or Muslims and Hindus, or whatever. Pick your death match. It's why it's fun to watch these people fight. Because this is all that they do, back and forth. But my book says it's true. Well, I don't care about your book. My book says this. Well, screw your book. My book is right. Because neither side is capable of taking a big step backwards and realizing what's actually going on. It's funny to laugh at because both sides are so ludicrous.
So the Bible doesn't actually say that you don't know that that stapler is a stapler truly, and that you don't actually know that 2 + 2 = 4 truly. As much as we look in the Bible, we never found it.
Because you haven't proven that the Bible is worth anything. It doesn't matter what it says in the Bible because the Bible has never been demonstrated to be objectively true. So that first, then we'll talk. Of course, that will never happen because this isn't about truth for them. It's about comfort and faith and wishful thinking. And I doubt there's a single theist out there of any religious persuasion that can understand that their book means nothing without independent corroboration. And they have no interest in any of that, do they? Nope, they just want to believe.
That's right. In fact, the Bible affirms the opposite. The Bible affirms, you hypocrites, you know the times of the seasons, but you're able to read the signs of the skies, but you're not able to read the signs of the times, right? You're able to look at the weather and say, all right, well, this weather pattern means that we should go out because it's going to be clear and nice and we can catch lots of fish. And this weather pattern means that we ought to stay home because it's going to be stormy. But you're unable to understand the signs of the times. You're unable to understand the things of Scripture, the things of the kingdom.
So what? I mean, I'm really not trying to just make fun of these people, but who the hell cares? I mean, who with a brain? These are not Christian intellectuals. These are just fanatics who really want this stuff to be true, whether it is or not. What in the hell is wrong with these people? And the answer to that is nothing that wasn't also wrong with Cornelius Van Til. Nothing that isn't currently wrong with William Lane Craig. Nothing that isn't wrong with every single apologist under the sun. This is all just, well, you're not agreeing with me, so you've got to be wrong. And the guy on the other side is saying exactly the same thing back. Well, you don't agree with me, so you're wrong. except neither side has ever demonstrated that they are, in fact, correct on anything, or that their source material is, in fact, worthwhile. Just because you really like the idea, that doesn't mean anything. It just makes you all look like a bunch of idiots, doesn't it?
You hypocrites. Right? Scripture's affirming that unregenerate people have the ability to understand true things, even about God.
That assumes that there are any true things about God. That assumes that God even exists in the first place. Because if you took the same discussion and inserted a Muslim, for instance, you wouldn't get any agreement whatsoever. Or some other religion that has very, very different views on some very different God. Zero agreement to be had. So, in that instance, what would the two sides do? Scream at each other? That happens a lot. Start shooting? That happens a lot too. The one thing that never happens is that the two sides back off, go back to square one, and start figuring out which side, if either of them, is actually correct. Because none of them actually care. It's just pathetic.
But they refuse to use that reasoning capacity rightly when it comes to the things of God.
You really need to look in the mirror, pal. We've seen all of this a million times before. The religious pretending that they've got a clue when demonstrably they don't. These are not smart people, even when they pretend in their YouTube channel names. Being intellectual is something that you have to earn. It's not a title that you can just bestow on yourself. You're not intellectual because you want to be. You're not intellectual because you believe that you are, because you have faith, because wouldn't that be cool? You have to prove that you are, and yeah, these people tend to have some problems, don't they? They're not out there saying, well, here's how we know a thing. No, it's all faith and fifis, with the expectations that anyone who's watching their pathetic puppet show is going to automatically agree. That's why people who aren't agreeing are speaking out. We need to show why these people are wrong. We need to show what they're doing wrong. I don't expect any of them to improve because they just don't care, but we have to at least try.
So it's not that they can't do it, it's that they refuse to do it because they don't want to, because they love the darkness rather than the light, because their deeds were evil.
Well, that was a run-on sentence of complete nonsense, wasn't it? Because I just know what everybody else is thinking. Really? Do tell. And it's not just these people, it's almost all of them. But you really want to sin, don't you? No, because sin isn't real, and we think your beliefs are absolutely ludicrous. They just can't handle that, and because all of this is just, well, I really want to believe, what do you expect? Nobody cares what you want, and you shouldn't either. The fact that you do, that says some pretty damning things about you and your intellectual prowess. So anyway, that's where it ended. Sorry, but I'm just not remotely impressed. If you are, let me know in the comments. I must have missed it, but they never showed where Van Til's presuppositionalism was wrong, did they? They just inserted their own presuppositions, pretended that they must be automatically right, and then they just ran around with the goalpost for a while. Why? Because they hope that whoever is watching is going to be on their side. I also think they're probably censoring dissenting voices, but that's neither here nor there, is it? These are people who don't have any clue about what's going on, and frankly, they don't want one. We're right, you're wrong, so there. This is absolutely childish from people who are acting absolutely childish. And I'm not sure why that's supposed to surprise anybody. It shouldn't impress anybody, but there you go. Now, here's where I want to try an experiment. Once this video comes out, and if you're hearing this and you aren't a patron, it's going to be a couple of months, but I would like people to go over to the original video and give it a downvote. Don't leave impolite comments. I just want to see if they're somehow getting rid of downvotes or something, because I downvoted it and it isn't showing up. Yes, YouTube sort of shut them off officially, but if you know how, you can get back at least an estimation of what people actually think. Now, it's not going to hurt their video any because by the time this comes out, it will have already run its course and it won't matter. I'm just really curious what's going on. So if you want to go and do that, cool. If not, that's totally up to you. I'm just kind of curious. I will post the results in a pinned comment in a couple of days after this goes live, just out of curiosity. If you do go over there and downvote, let me know in the comments so that I can count how many people did it compared to what their results actually show. Just don't go there and be overtly rude. I am not asking for that. If you want to leave a comment there, cool. Don't be a dick. That's kind of my job. So anyway, off you go, and we'll see what's what.